In this video, we will look at a single image taken from a sagittal MRI of the lumbar spine and identify the lumbar vertebra as well as two major associated structures. Later in this video, we will relate this MRI image to a picture of a laminectomy of a cadaver and identify the same structures in both pictures. We will start by numbering the lumbar vertebra. The easiest way to do this would be first to identify a landmark, the first sacral vertebra, and then move superiorly up the spine, labeling the lumbar vertebra starting with L5. The first sacral vertebra does not perfectly follow the curve of the spine, as shown right here. I'll outline it in green. It seems to curve in a more dorsal direction. And let me outline the rest of the vertebral body for you right now. And I'll label that S1. Since we found our landmark, the first sacral vertebra, now just count up the vertebral bodies, starting with L5. And I'll outline that in purple, L5. I'll just write 4, 3, 2, and 1. I also quickly want to point out the shape of an intervertebral disc on this image, and they lay right in between the vertebral bodies in this oval shape. And I'll outline that in this blue right here. The conus medullaris is the first of two important structures I will mention that you can see on a sagittal MRI of the lumbar spine. I'm going to quickly outline the conus medullaris for you right now on this image. Now think about what vertebral level the conus medullaris ends at. And if you can't remember from your lecture classes, just apply what we talked about in the last slide to this diagram. We'll label the lumbar vertebra, starting with identifying our landmark, and then move up the spine. So our landmark was the first sacral vertebra, which I'll just label again, S1. And then I'll quickly label our lumbar vertebra. We'll just say 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The cauda equina is the second structure found on this sagittal MRI that I'd like to mention. And since we've already identified the conus medullaris in the last slide, the cauda equina should be very easy to see. I'll just draw one blue line to represent where the cauda equina is located. Now the next slide contains a picture of the conus medullaris and the cauda equina on a dissected cadaver where the lamina had been cut and the spinous processes had been removed in the laminectomy in order to see the spinal cord underneath. So first I'll show a zoomed out picture of the specimen and then we'll zoom in on the relevant structures and identify them. Before we label the conus medullaris and the cauda equina on the new image on the right, let's first discuss our viewpoint for that image. What position is the cadaver in, and what side of the body are we looking at? In a laminectomy, the lamina of the vertebra are cut, which I'm drawing here with a red line. This allows the spinous process, which is the most dorsal structure of a vertebra, to be removed, exposing the spinal cord underneath. Therefore, in our picture on the right, our cadaver is in the prone position and we're looking at the dorsal back with the dura opened up. Time to label the conus medullaris and cauda equina on these images. On the right, I've zoomed in on the same cadaver we looked at in the last few slides, but in the next slide, I'm going to show the same picture zoomed in even more by itself so we can see the structures more clearly. I'll outline the conus medullaris and the cauda equina for you now. Let me start with the conus medullaris, and I'll do that in red. And it's a little hard to see on the image, just follow the trace of the pen. It goes down to a little bit of a point right there. And then I'll just make a quick scribble to represent the cauda equina because you know it's just inferior to the conus medullaris. Now keep in mind in a practical exam, a piece of string can be tied around the cauda equina or the conus medullaris and you'll be asked to identify the tag structure. So just be careful to differentiate between those two structures. And this concludes our intro to labeling the lumbar vertebra and associated structures. Thank you for watching and I hope you found this video helpful.